The emergency lights flashed red across the bridge of the Vulcan warship. Commander Thelvis gripped the armrests of his command chair as another explosion rocked the hull. Outside the viewport, space was filled with weapons fire and debris from destroyed vessels. Shield integrity at 20%, his tactical officer reported. The officer's forearms moved rapidly across the control panels, trying to redirect power from damaged systems. Thelvis looked at the tactical display. 3 years ago, the Vulcan Republic had been a peaceful civilization. They traded with neighbors, studied the stars, and lived in harmony. Then the Dreth Collective came. The Dreth wanted Vulcan territory. They wanted Vulcan resources. They wanted everything, and they took it with overwhelming military force. The Vulcans fought back. They had ships and weapons, but they were scientists and traders, not warriors. The Dreth were born for war. Every battle was a lesson in survival that cost thousands of Vulcan lives. "Sir, the eastern flank is collapsing," another officer called out. "The Bright Star and Golden Hope are destroyed. The Peaceful Dawn is venting atmosphere." Thelvis closed his eyes for a moment. Those ships had crews, families, people he knew personally. But he could not afford to grieve now. He had to think, had to find a way to save who remained. 2 years ago, the Vulcans had made first contact with a new species. Humans from a planet called Earth. The humans were friendly and curious. They signed trade agreements and offered an alliance. The Vulcans agreed, grateful for any potential friend in these dark times. But Earth was far away, and the humans were new to galactic politics. The Vulcans never expected much military help from them. Now, Thelvis had no choice. "Send a distress call to Earth," he ordered. "Request immediate backup at Zarium Belt. Standard Alliance protocols." His communications officer hesitated. "Sir, Earth is 3 weeks away at maximum warp. Even if they respond immediately." "I know," Thelvis interrupted. "But we have no one else to call." "Send it." The message went out into the void of space, traveling faster than light toward the distant blue planet. On Earth, at the United Fleet Command Headquarters, Admiral Taman sat in his office reviewing reports. He was young for an admiral, only 38 years old, but he had proven himself in the conflicts that united Earth under one government. His dark eyes scanned the data streams, watching ship movements, supply lines, and training schedules across humanity's growing fleet. The alert chime made him look up. An incoming priority message from the Vulcan Republic. Tamin opened it and read quickly. His expression did not change, but his mind was already working through options. He pressed the intercom button. "Hey-1, get to my office. Now." Lieutenant Commander Hey-1 arrived within 2 minutes. She was Tamin's tactical officer and one of the sharpest strategic minds in the fleet. Her short hair was still wet from the shower. She had been off duty. "Sorry to interrupt your evening," Tamin said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "We have a situation." He showed her the message. A1 read it twice, her eyes narrowing as she processed the information. "The Vulcans are in trouble," she said simply. "Yes, they are requesting backup. Standard Alliance protocols suggest we send a frigate squadron, maybe a cruiser if the threat assessment is high." A1 nodded slowly. "That is what they expect. That is what anyone would send." She paused. "But you are not planning to send a frigate squadron, are you, sir?" Tamin smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a decision that would surprise many people. "The Vulcans are our allies," he said. "They called for help. We are going to help them. How much help?" Hey-1 asked, though she already suspected the answer. "All of it," Tamin replied. He pulled up a display showing Earth's fleet positions. Battle Groups 7, 12, and 15 are currently on patrol in sectors near Vulcan space. How long to assemble them? Hey-1 did quick calculations in her head. 48 hours if we recall all vessels immediately. Maybe less if we skip standard pre-deployment protocols. Do it. I want 3 full battle groups ready to move in 2 days. Hey, one stared at him. 3 battle groups. That was over 300 warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, cruisers, support vessels. It was a force capable of conquering entire star systems. Sir, that is not backup. That is an invasion force. It is what we have available in the region, Taemin said calmly. The Vulcans are dying out there, Hawan. The Dreth are slaughtering them. If we send a token force, we might save a few ships. If we send everything we have, we end this war. The Galactic Council will notice, one warned. They think we have maybe 50 or 60 major warships total. When we show up with 300, it will change how they see us. Good, Taemin said. Let them see who we really are. Let them understand that when humanity makes a promise, we keep it. When we call someone an ally, we mean it. Hey, one stood and saluted. I will begin recall procedures immediately, sir. Back at the Zarian Belt, the Vulcans continued fighting. They held the line barely, losing ships and lives with each passing hour. Commander Thelvis watched the stars and hoped that help would come in time. He did not know that help was already moving. He did not know that 3 human battle groups were converging on his position at maximum speed. He did not know that the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. When humans promise backup, they do not send reinforcements. They send overwhelming force. They send victory. They send a message written in fire and steel that those who harm humanity's friends will regret it. Commander Thelvis had not slept in 30 hours. His bridge crew rotated shifts, but he remained in his command chair, watching the sensors, waiting for the end. The Dreth fleet was pressing harder now. They knew the Vulcans were weakening. They could smell blood in the water, as humans would say. Sir, we are detecting warp signatures, the sensor officer announced. Multiple contacts inbound. Thelvis felt a flutter of hope. Could it be? Had Earth sent help already? But no, it was too soon. The message had only been sent 5 days ago. Even at maximum warp, Earth was still weeks away. How many contacts? He asked. The sensor officer stared at his screen. His face went pale, which was difficult for a Vulcan with naturally gray skin. Sir, I must be reading this incorrectly. The system is showing... It is showing hundreds of signatures. Hundreds? Thelvis stood up quickly. Let me see. He looked at the display. The numbers did not make sense. 347 distinct warp signatures, all coming from the same direction. All human signatures. The computer was certain. That is impossible, Thelvis whispered. No one sends 300 ships for a backup request. But the sensors did not lie. As the Vulcans watched in disbelief, the human fleet dropped out of warp at the edge of the Zarian Belt. Ship after ship appeared, each one massive and bristling with weapons. Dreadnoughts that were twice the size of anything the Vulcans had ever built. Carriers that each held hundreds of fighter craft. Destroyers, cruisers, support vessels, all in perfect formation. It was not a backup force. It was an armada. Aboard the human flagship Indomitable, Captain Bauer stood on the bridge and watched the tactical display. She was a career officer who had spent 20 years in space. She had fought in the wars that united Earth and in the border skirmishes that followed. She knew war, and she was good at it. Communications. Hail the Vulcan commander, she ordered. Channel open. Captain, replied the communications officer. Vulcan vessel. This is Captain Bora of the Earth battleship Indomitable. We received your distress call. We are here to help. On Thelvis's screen, a human woman appeared. She wore a crisp military uniform and had an expression of calm confidence. Behind her, The bridge of the Indomitable was busy with activity. Dozens of human officers worked at their stations, all moving with practiced efficiency. "Captain Barr," Thelvas managed to say, We are grateful for your response. We did not expect such a large force." "You called for backup," Biora said simply. "We brought backup." "May I speak with your fleet commander?" "We need a tactical briefing." Another screen activated, and Admiral Taman appeared. He was younger than Thelvas expected for someone commanding such a massive fleet. But his eyes were sharp and focused. "Commander Thelvas," Taman said, nodding politely. "I am Admiral Taman of Earth's United Fleet. Please transmit all tactical data on enemy positions, ship types, and engagement patterns. We will analyze and formulate a response." Thelvas could only nod. His communications officer sent the data. Within seconds, it was spread across the entire human fleet. Every ship received the information simultaneously. Lieutenant Jin Wu, the communications officer aboard the Indomitable, coordinated the data flow. He was 26 years old and had the fastest hands in the fleet. His fingers danced across his console, routing information to hundreds of ships at once, making sure every captain and every tactical officer had exactly what they needed. "All ships confirmed receipt of tactical data," Jinwoo reported. "Battle groups moving into assault formation." On the bridge of the destroyer Swift Justice, Lieutenant Misan worked at the navigation and sensor station. She was mapping the entire battlefield, marking every asteroid, every ship, every piece of debris. Her maps would be used by every fighter pilot and every gunner in the fleet. Accuracy was everything, and Misan was never inaccurate. "Dreth fleet positions locked," she reported to her captain, transmitting updated tactical overlay to all vessels. The Dreth had noticed the human arrival. At first, they were confused. Their intelligence said the humans were a minor power with limited military capability. But sensors did not lie. 347 warships had just appeared, and they were moving with precision that the Dreth had rarely seen. The Dreth fleet commander, a veteran of 50 campaigns, felt something he had not felt in many years: concern. He sent an urgent message to Dreth High Command, upgrading the threat assessment of humanity from minor ally of the Vulcans to major strategic concern. But by the time his message was sent, it was already too late. Admiral Taman studied the tactical situation. The Dreth had numbers and they had position. They had been fighting the Vulcans for 3 years and knew every trick, every weakness. But they had never fought humans before. "All ships, this is Admiral Taman," he broadcast across the fleet. "We have allies in need. The Dreth Collective has been attacking them for 3 years. They called us for help. We will answer that call. All battle groups, execute assault pattern Delta 7. Weapons free on my mark." Captain Baora listened to the orders and smiled. Delta 7 was aggressive. It was overwhelming. It was exactly what was needed. "Weapons, power up all batteries," she ordered. "Helm, plot intercept course with Dreth forward elements. Fighter wings, prepare for launch." Across the human fleet, 347 ships moved as one. They formed a wall of steel and fire, advancing on the Dreth positions with steady, unstoppable momentum. Commander Thelvas watched from his damaged ship. He had called for backup, expecting maybe 5 or 10 ships. He had hoped for a squadron that might even the odds a little. That might buy the Vulcans a few more weeks to evacuate civilians or negotiate a surrender. Instead, he was watching the largest military force he had ever seen moving to defend his people. The humans had crossed the stars in 5 days, assembled an armada, and arrived ready for total war. "What kind of species is this?" his tactical officer whispered. Thelvas did not have an answer, but he was very, very grateful that the humans were on his side. The Dreth fleet braced for impact, Their commanders shouted orders, repositioning ships, charging weapons. They outnumbered the humans 2-1. They had superior position. They should have had the advantage, but they had never fought humans before. They did not understand what they were facing. Admiral Taemin watched his tactical display. Everything was in position. Every ship was ready. Every crew member knew their job. All ships, he said calmly. Fire. The first volley from the human fleet lit up space like 1,000 suns. Every weapon on every ship fired in perfect synchronization. The Dreth shields flickered and died under the massive assault. Ships that had survived 3 years of war against the Vulcans exploded within seconds. The Dreth commander could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet was built for war. His people had conquered 12 star systems. They had crushed the Vulcans again and again. But the humans fought differently. They fought with terrifying precision and overwhelming firepower. "Return fire!" The Dreth commander screamed. "All batteries, engage the human fleet." The Dreth ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human formation. But the human ships were already moving, already adapting. They scattered into smaller formations, their point defense systems shooting down incoming missiles with impossible accuracy. The energy beams that hit their shields were absorbed and dispersed. Commander Dong Hyan sat in the cockpit of his fighter, leading a squadron of 48 craft. They launched from the carrier Thunderstrike and streaked toward the Dreth formation. Dong Hyan was 32 years old and had logged over 5,000 hours of flight time. He knew every trick, every maneuver, every way to squeeze extra performance from his fighter. "Gold Squadron, form up on me," he ordered. "We are targeting their command ship. Stay tight, watch your spacing, and remember your training." The fighters moved like a school of fish, weaving through weapons fire and debris. Dong Hyan led them straight into the heart of the Dreth formation. Other squadrons were doing the same. Dozens of them, all coordinated by the fleet's tactical network. The Dreth had never seen fighters used this way. They were everywhere at once, striking weak points, destroying communication arrays, and creating chaos. Aboard the Indomitable, Engineering Chief Young Mi monitored the ship's systems. She was 41 years old and had been working on starship engines since she was 18. She knew every pipe, every conduit, every circuit on this ship. When the weapons officer called for more power, Young Mi delivered it. When the shield generators started to overheat, she rerouted cooling systems in seconds. The ship was running at 112% of rated capacity, and Young Mi was keeping it there through sheer expertise and determination. "Engineering to bridge," she reported. "All systems optimal. We can maintain this output for another 6 hours before we need to cycle the reactors." Captain Bayera acknowledged the report. 6 hours. That would be more than enough. At the current rate, this battle would be over in 2. Weapons Officer Sang-woo targeted the Dreth battleship. He was 29 years old and had graduated top of his class from the Naval Academy. He understood physics, geometry, and ballistics at an instinctive level. He could look at a ship's movement and predict where it would be 5 seconds later. His targeting computer agreed with his instincts 98% of the time. 4 batteries locked on target, Sang-woo reported. Firing. The main guns of the Indomitable thundered. The massive energy beams crossed the distance in an instant and struck the Dreth battleship exactly where Sang-woo had aimed, at the junction between their shield generators and main hull. The shields collapsed, and the next volley tore through armor plating. The Dreth battleship tried to maneuver, but Sang-woo had already predicted the move. His third volley hit them before they completed the turn. The Dreth battleship exploded. Commander Thelvis watched the battle from his damaged ship. It had been less than an hour since the humans arrived. Already, the Dreth fleet was in full retreat. Ships that had terrorized the Vulcans for 3 years were burning wrecks. The Dreth formation was broken. Their command structure was shattered, and their morale was gone. "This is impossible," Thelva's tactical officer whispered. "How are they doing this?" Thelva shook his head. The humans were not using any technology the Vulcans did not have. Their ships were not faster. Their weapons were not more powerful. But they used everything with perfect efficiency. There was no wasted movement, no hesitation, no confusion. Every ship knew exactly what to do, and every crew executed perfectly. It was not superior technology. It was superior training, superior coordination, and superior determination. Admiral Taman watched the tactical display. The battle was progressing exactly as planned. The Dreth were falling back to their secondary positions, trying to regroup. But Taman had predicted this. He had studied the tactical data the Vulcans provided. He knew how the Dreth fought. "All battle groups, advance to waypoints Delta through Gamma," he ordered. "Cut off their retreat. I want them trapped between our forces and the asteroid field." The human fleet moved forward. The Dreth tried to escape, but everywhere they turned, human ships were waiting. It was not just overwhelming force. It was perfect strategy. Taman had turned the entire battlefield into a trap, and the Dreth had walked right into it. The Dreth commander realized too late what was happening. His fleet was surrounded. His ships were being systematically destroyed. He had lost half his forces, and the battle had only been going on for 90 minutes. He tried one last desperate move. He ordered all remaining ships to concentrate their fire on a single human dreadnought. If they could destroy just one major human ship, maybe they could break the human formation, create an opening to escape. 200 Dreth ships turned their weapons on the human dreadnought Eternal Vigilance. Every weapon fired at once. The concentrated firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon. The Eternal Vigilance's shields held for 3 seconds before failing. Energy beams and missiles struck the hull, tearing through armor. Secondary explosions rippled across the ship's surface. For a moment, the Dreth thought they had succeeded. Then the Eternal Vigilance returned fire. Even damaged, even with fires burning across multiple decks, the ship's weapon systems were still operational. The dreadnought's massive guns fired, and 3 Dreth cruisers exploded, and then the rest of the human fleet responded. They did not panic. They did not break formation. They simply redirected fire toward the Dreth ships that had attacked their sister vessel. The counterattack was swift and brutal. Within minutes, every ship that had fired on the Eternal Vigilance was destroyed. The Dreth commander knew he had lost. He sent the signal to retreat, to abandon the field, to save what ships he could. But the humans had cut off every escape route. Commander Dong Hyan's fighter squadron pursued the fleeing Dreth ships. They targeted engines, disabling ships rather than destroying them. The human doctrine was clear: destroy the enemy's ability to fight, but offer them a chance to surrender. The Dreth were not used to mercy. They fought to the death or to total victory. The concept of honorable surrender was foreign to them. But now, faced with complete annihilation, many Dreth captains chose survival. One by one, ships powered down their weapons and shields. Within 4 hours of the battle's start, it was over. The Dreth fleet was destroyed or captured. The Vulcan system was secure, and the galaxy had just witnessed something unprecedented. A new military power that could mobilize overwhelming force and deploy it with devastating efficiency. Commander Thelva sat in his command chair, staring at the view screen. In one day, the humans had accomplished what the Vulcans could not do in 3 years. They had broken the Dreth, ended the war, and saved the Vulcan Republic. "Captain Ba'ora is hailing us," his communications officer reported. Thelva straightened his uniform and accepted the call. The human captain appeared on screen, looking calm and professional, despite having just commanded a ship through a major battle. Commander Thelvis, Baora said. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are deploying medical ships to assist with rescue operations. Do you require any assistance? Thelvis did not know what to say. Finally, he managed, Captain, I do not know how to thank you. Baora smiled slightly. You are our ally. You called for help. We came. That is what allies do. The day after the battle, Admiral Taman gathered his senior officers in the conference room aboard the Indomitable. The holographic display showed the Dreth Collective's territory. Their fleet at Zarian Belt had been destroyed, but the Dreth still controlled dozens of star systems. They still had military bases, supply depots, and shipyards. And they still had ships. Captain Jae-sung of the battlecruiser Relentless studied the map carefully. He was 43 years old and had spent his entire adult life in the military. He specialized in long-term strategic planning. Where other officers saw individual battles, Jae-sung saw entire campaigns. They will regroup, Jae-sung said, pointing to a cluster of Dreth systems. Their main fleet is still intact. They lost the Zarian force, but that was only about 30% of their total military capability. If we stop here, they will rebuild and attack again in 6 months or a year. Admiral Taman nodded. Exactly. So we are not going to stop here. We are going to finish this. The other officers looked at him. They had just won a major victory. Most species would consolidate, negotiate, maybe establish a ceasefire. But Taman was proposing to continue the offensive. We have the advantage now, Taman continued. The Dreth are confused and scared. They did not expect us. They did not expect to lose. If we press forward now, we can end this war completely. Captain Baora understood immediately. You want to destroy their supply infrastructure. Cut them off, isolate their fleets, and force them to surrender without fighting a dozen more major battles. Precisely, Taman said. Captain Jae-sung, I want you to take Battle Group 12 and target their supply lines. No direct confrontations with their main fleet. Just destroy their logistics. Every fuel depot, every supply ship, every communication relay. Make it impossible for them to sustain military operations. Jae-sung smiled. It was the kind of mission he was born for. Understood, Admiral. We will make them starve. Science Officer Hai-jin stepped forward. She was 35 years old and held 3 advanced degrees in xenotechnology. She had been studying the Dreth ships and systems since the battle ended. Admiral, I have completed my analysis of the captured Dreth vessels, Hai-jin reported. Their technology is actually quite sophisticated, but they have several critical vulnerabilities. Their shield generators all use the same frequency modulation. Their communication systems are heavily encrypted, but use a limited number of protocols. And their weapons targeting systems rely on a centralized computing network. Can we exploit these vulnerabilities? Taman asked. Absolutely, Hai-jin said. I can create a jamming signal that will disrupt their shields. I can break their encryption and monitor their communications. And if we can access their tactical network, we could potentially disable their weapons remotely. The men looked impressed. How long do you need? Give me 48 hours and access to the captured systems. I will have everything ready. While the military strategists planned their next moves, Medical Officer Hyun-sik was dealing with an unexpected situation. The humans had captured over 3,000 Dreth prisoners. By the laws of war, prisoners had to be treated humanely and given medical care. Hyun-sik was 51 years old and had been a military doctor for 27 years. He had treated injuries from every kind of weapon imaginable, but he had never treated Dreth before. Their biology was different from humans and Vulcans. Their internal organs were arranged differently. Their blood chemistry was unique, but Hyun-sik did not care. A patient was a patient. He studied Dreth physiology from the medical databases, consulted with his team, and then went to work. He treated Dreth wounded with the same care and attention he would give to human soldiers. The Dreth prisoners were confused. In their culture, prisoners were either executed or enslaved. The concept of medical treatment for enemies was completely foreign. But Hyansik and his team saved lives, set broken bones, and treated infections. They worked 18-hour days to make sure every prisoner received proper care. One Dreth soldier, injured during the battle, asked why the humans were helping them. Hyansik had looked at him and said simply, "Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. That is reason enough." The Dreth soldier did not understand, but he would remember those words for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Captain Jae-sung was executing his mission with surgical precision. Battle Group 12 moved through Dreth space like a scalpel, cutting supply lines and destroying infrastructure. They did not engage the main Dreth fleets. They simply made it impossible for those fleets to function. Strategic Officer Yoon-ji coordinated the operations from the Relentless. She was 31 years old and had a mind like a chess computer. She could predict enemy movements 3 or 4 steps ahead. When the Dreth tried to protect the supply convoy, Yoon-ji predicted exactly which route they would take and had ships waiting in ambush. When they tried to reinforce a fuel depot, she anticipated it and destroyed the depot before reinforcements arrived. The Dreth High Command was in chaos. Every decision they made, the humans had already countered. Every trap they set, the humans avoided. It was as if the humans could read their minds. They could not. Yoon-ji was just better at strategy than they were. After 2 weeks of systematic destruction, the Dreth military was crippled. Their ships had no fuel. Their crews had no food. Their communication networks were compromised. They could not coordinate their fleets, could not resupply their bases, could not mount an effective defense. The Dreth High Command called an emergency meeting. They faced a terrible choice: continue fighting a war they could not win, or surrender to a species they barely knew. Then the humans made an unexpected move. Instead of demanding unconditional surrender, Admiral Taemin sent a message to Dreth High Command. It was broadcast on every Dreth frequency, transmitted to every Dreth world. "People of the Dreth Collective," Taemin said, his image appearing on millions of screens. "This war is over. Your military is defeated. Your supply lines are destroyed. Your fleets are trapped in their own space without fuel or support. But we are not monsters. We do not want to destroy your civilization. We want peace." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We offer you a choice. Surrender now, and we will help you rebuild. We will provide food, medicine, and aid to your people. We will not occupy your worlds or enslave your population. All we ask is that you never threaten the Vulcan Republic or any of our allies again, or continue fighting, and we will be forced to completely dismantle your civilization. The choice is yours. You have 24 hours to decide." The message ended. Throughout Dreth space, people watched and listened. Their leaders had told them the war was going well, that victory was certain. But now they knew the truth. The humans had destroyed their military in 3 weeks without even engaging their main fleets. They had done it through superior strategy, superior logistics, and superior technology. The Dreth High Command met again. Some wanted to fight to the death, but most were practical. They had lost. Continuing would only result in more death and destruction. 20-3 hours after Admiral Taemin's message, the Dreth sent their response. They agreed to surrender. The war was over. Commander Thelvis received the news while overseeing repairs to his ship. He sat down heavily, feeling 3 years of tension finally release. It was over. The nightmare was over. And it had ended not through Vulcan strength, but through human intervention. He thought about the message he had sent weeks ago, requesting backup. He had expected a few ships. He had received an armada. He had expected military assistance. He had received total victory. What kind of species does this? His tactical officer had asked during the battle. Now, Thelvis knew the answer. Humans were the kind of species who kept their promises, who stood by their allies, who did not do anything halfway. When they said they would help, they meant it absolutely. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. The massive circular room had been the center of galactic politics for over 2,000 years. Decisions made here affected trillions of beings across hundreds of star systems. Today, the Council was meeting to discuss something unprecedented: the sudden emergence of humanity as a major military power. Commander Thelvis sat in the Vulcan delegation area, preparing to speak. Beside him sat Admiral Taemin, representing Earth. The human looked calm and relaxed, as if addressing the most powerful political body in the galaxy was a routine matter. The Council chairman, a tall being from the ancient Kelter species, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber. This emergency session has been called to address the recent military action in Vulcan space, the chairman said. The Dreth-Vulcan conflict has ended after 3 years of warfare. It ended not through Vulcan victory or negotiated settlement, but through intervention by the human species of Earth. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species had heard rumors, but this was the first official confirmation. The Council would like to understand exactly what happened, the chairman continued. Commander Thelvis of the Vulcan Republic, please present your account. Thelvis stood and walked to the central speaking platform. His legs were still weak from weeks of stress and little sleep, but he stood straight and spoke clearly. 3 weeks ago, my people were facing extinction, Thelvis began. The Dreth Collective had been attacking us for 3 years. We had lost dozens of worlds, millions of lives, and most of our fleet. In desperation, I sent a distress call to our ally, the human nation of Earth. I requested backup according to standard alliance protocols. He paused, remembering that moment on his damaged ship. I expected a small force, perhaps 5 ships, maybe 10 if we were fortunate. Instead, 347 human warships arrived within 5 days. They engaged the Dreth fleet and destroyed it in less than 4 hours. Then they systematically dismantled the Dreth military infrastructure across multiple star systems. Within 3 weeks, a war my people could not win in 3 years was over. The council chamber erupted in noise. Representatives shouted questions, expressed disbelief, and demanded explanations. The chairman had to call for order 3 times before the chamber quieted. 347 warships? A council member from the Torgeth Unity asked. Our intelligence indicated Earth possessed perhaps 50 or 60 major vessels. How did they suddenly produce such a fleet? Admiral Taemin stood and walked to the platform. Thelvis stepped aside, and the human took his place. We did not suddenly produce anything, Taemin said calmly. Those ships have existed for years. The 3 battle groups we deployed represent approximately 15% of Earth's active military fleet. We have been building our defensive capabilities since we achieved faster-than-light travel. The chamber fell absolutely silent. 15%. That meant Earth had over 2,000 major warships. That was more than most species had in their entire history. That was a fleet capable of conquering half the galaxy. Captain Byra sat in the human delegation area, watching the council's reaction. She had expected this. The galaxy had badly underestimated humanity. They had seen Earth as a young species, new to space, still learning galactic politics. They had assumed humans were weak. That assumption was now shattered. Why did you hide your military strength? Another council member demanded. Why deceive the galactic community? We did not deceive anyone, Taman replied. No one asked us about our fleet size. Your intelligence services made assumptions based on limited data. We did not correct those assumptions because we saw no need to. Earth is not an aggressive power. We have no interest in conquest or domination. We built our fleet for defense and to honor our commitments to our allies. The Dreth representative, a diplomat who had only been appointed after the surrender, spoke up. Admiral, my people would like to understand your strategy. How did you defeat our forces so completely? Taman considered the question. Your forces were strong. Your technology was good. Your soldiers were brave. But you made a critical mistake. You assumed that because we were new to galactic politics, we were also inexperienced in warfare. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Humanity has been fighting wars for our entire existence. We have refined the art of combat over thousands of years. We understand logistics, strategy, and the importance of combined arms operations. When we entered galactic space, we brought all of that knowledge with us. We studied every conflict we could find records of. We learned from every battle in galactic history, and we prepared for the possibility that someday we might need to defend ourselves or our allies. Lieutenant Kite sat quietly in the observation section, taking notes. He was 24 years old and served as a junior tactical officer aboard the Indomitable. He had been assigned to document the council session for the official record. As he listened to Admiral Taman speak, he felt a sense of pride. The Admiral was not bragging or threatening. He was simply stating facts. The council chairman spoke again. Admiral Taman, the council must ask, what are Earth's intentions? With such military power, you could easily conquer many of the species represented here. How can we trust that you will not become a threat? Taman looked directly at the chairman. You can trust us because we have already shown you who we are. When the Vulcans called for help, we came. We did not demand territory or payment. We did not seek to control their government or exploit their resources. We helped because they are our allies and they needed us. He gestured to Thelvis, who still stood nearby. The Vulcans asked for backup. We brought a war fleet. Some of you might see that as excessive, but from our perspective, it was simply being thorough. When humanity makes a commitment, we follow through completely. When we call someone an ally, we mean it absolutely. When we promise to help, we deliver overwhelming support. Captain Biora watched as the council members processed this. Some looked relieved. Others looked worried. All of them were recalculating their understanding of galactic power dynamics. Furthermore, Taman continued, Earth is not interested in empire. We have our own worlds to manage, our own people to care for. We entered galactic politics to trade, to learn, and to make friends. The fact that we have a strong military does not change that goal. It simply means we can protect our friends and defend our interests. The session continued for hours. Council members asked questions about human technology, human strategy, and human intentions. Taman answered everything honestly and directly. By the end, a new reality had settled over the council chamber. The galactic power structure had changed. Earth was no longer a minor player. Earth was a major power that had to be respected and considered in all future decisions. That evening, Commander Thelvis and Admiral Taman shared a meal in the human delegation's quarters. The formal session was over, but both knew the real work of diplomacy was just beginning. Thank you again for saving my people, Thelvis said. I still cannot believe you sent such a massive force in response to a simple distress call. Taman smiled. It was not so simple from our perspective. You are our ally. You were in danger. The choice was obvious, but 300 ships. Would you prefer we had sent only 5? Taman asked. Perhaps the war would have continued for months or years. More Vulcans would have died. More suffering would have occurred. By sending overwhelming force, we ended the conflict quickly and saved lives. Is that not better? Thelvis had to admit it was. He raised his glass in a toast. To humanity. May all species be fortunate enough to have such allies. Taemin raised his glass as well. To the Vulcans. May our friendship continue for generations. Back on Earth, the news of the Vulcan intervention was spreading. People watched reports of the battle, saw images of the fleet in action, and felt a mixture of pride and concern. They were proud that their military had helped an ally in need. But they also worried about what this meant for Earth's future. Lieutenant Kite completed his report and submitted it to the official archives. He included one personal observation at the end, something that was not required but felt important to record. The Vulcans asked for backup, Kite wrote. They expected a token force, a symbolic gesture of support. Instead, we brought a war fleet that ended their war in 3 weeks. Some might call this excessive, but I believe it sends an important message to the galaxy. Earth keeps its promises. When we commit to something, we commit completely. When we say we will help, we bring everything we have. He paused, thinking about how to end the report. The galaxy now knows who we are. They know what we are capable of. Perhaps next time, when someone asks Earth for backup, they will be more specific about what they actually need. Because when humanity promises to help, we do not send reinforcements. We send overwhelming victory. We send the full weight of our capability. We send a message that those who stand with us will never stand alone. Kite saved the report and leaned back in his chair. The Vulcan intervention was over, but its consequences would echo through the galaxy for years to come. Earth had revealed its strength. Now the real test would begin, proving that strength could be used wisely.